We're working through all the stitches that the BERNINA L890 serger can do, and also where you're going to use each of these stitches. So we are taking you from the traditional 4-thread overlock stitch to the 3-thread narrow stitch. Now do keep in mind, depending on which needle you have in, if I want a narrow stitch, I'm going to be using the inside needle or the right needle, and there is a 3-thread wide stitch, which if that's the case, then you're going to be using just the outside needle or the left needle. So if you are using the narrow version, you do need to actually remove the needle you're not using. I will give you a little hint. I have been known, if I'm doing the wide one, is just to skip threading the inside needle, because yes, it'll make a hole in the fabric, but it really doesn't have to be removed if you're feeling a little lazy. So just know a 3-thread overlock is going to be perfect for overlocking the edges of a single layer of fabric. You can do this before you sew your pieces together and just overlock everything. I'm going to show you how you don't have to cut anything off if you don't want to. And you can also go through, if you have sewn anything and want to just quick zip around with the overlock stitch, you can actually do it after the construction of your item. Usually it looks a little better if you do it before, but you could always go back and serge around anything you've already created that you wish you had like that little overlock edge on at a later time. So start by taking your scissors. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my presser foot. To start by removing the left needle thread, I just clip the little thread down at the needle, and I can clip at the top and pull through, or just go ahead and remove that spool. The key is that you don't leave this thread dangling back here. I actually will make sure to always remove the spool so it doesn't get fed back in with the other active threads. Next, find your screwdriver in the front of your accessory door here. And if you are having a little trouble catching the needle or holding on to it, remember your needle threader has that holder that you can slide up the needle, and you're loosening the screw at the top. And as you loosen, just give it a little wiggle, front to back, left to right, and as soon as it wants to release your needle, then tighten that screw back in. Now do keep in mind, anytime you take a screw out, you will need to, when we put that needle back in, is make sure that screw is all the way pulled out so that needle can go up to its highest position before it can go back in. So you will feel like you'll have to undo it quite a bit, because at the end here I kind of went quite a ways in. So I am nice and secure. Nothing on the vibration of this machine while it's running will help loosen that screw even more and then wiggle it loose. So I always make sure to tell my students, tighten those up when you are not using them. Now what to do with this needle, if you recall, we do have some little pin cushions right down here that you can store your needles that you're not using, and they'll stay nicely out of the way. So without having to do anything else other than pick our stitch, this serger is ready to go. So we can come in here, pick our overlock stitches, 3-thread, the number 3 is the wide one, number 4 is the narrow one. And let's see here, I'm just on the regular expert mode, so I can just look across here and see that everything is as I have left it. The only thing that has changed from a 4-thread is that I have removed the left needle. You can touch the green check mark or the needle and thread, and I'm now ready to start to stitch for this particular stitch. Now, I'm going to show you once here, just go ahead and make sure I'm all threaded correctly. I still love how quiet that serger is. If you serge it and you find that there are kind of loops hanging out over the pass of your fabric, you're going to be adjusting the cutting knife down here, and you want to move the knife a little further away from the needles to help leave a little bit more fabric to fill that in. Now, if you don't want to cut something off, you can guide the fabric right next to the knife. You can see where that knife is going up and down. Now, on this fabric, I do have a little bit of a zigzag or a pinked edge, so I'm going to just kind of nick a little bit of it off, but all in all, I'm not really cutting any extra fabric. But if you had a straight edge, you could just run it beside it, and you would not lose any of your seam allowance. I just love how soft that, how gentle, narrow, petite, whatever you want to call it. That is a super easy edge to put on any particular fabric. You just need to look professional. Now here's one more thing a 3-thread can be used for. So the inside of a garment, if you've gone around all the pieces with a 3-thread, then you come back with your sewing machine and sew your actual construction seam. So I'm not using the 4-thread, I'm doing this in 2 passes. Overlock each edge, then sew. The ability to press open your seams, and because I've just used a binding on the edge of this jacket, it allows me to not have extra bulk as one of those seams, or both I should say, both seams to one side. They're pressed open so they're nice and properly layered, so there's not as much bulk all the way around where all those seams come down to the edge. So there is a benefit for going overlock stitches, 3-thread overlock, and then sewing with your sewing machine. I was also, this is a fitted jacket, so I was able to then come in and take in or let out based on how my body type was in certain areas, and it was much easier to remove or add a straight stitch versus a full overlock stitch by trying to having to take that out. So this actually turned out much more professional by taking the time to do overlock, then sewing machine construction stitch. Okay, so 3-thread overlock, remember you could do narrow or wide depending on which needle you're actually using.